A very good evening. Welcome to State of Business on our television. I'm Ashinsani Veerasinghe. Let's have a look at the headlines first. USA and Sri Lanka renews discussions on bilateral commitments. Quarantine curfew to be imposed in the western province from midnight tomorrow till 5 a.m. on Monday. News in detail. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that a strong and sovereign Sri Lanka is the best partner for the United States, and the United States will be assisting Sri Lanka in many ways to maintain that. The U.S. Secretary of State gave this assurance addressing the media at the Foreign Ministry premises in Colombo this morning. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo arrived in Sri Lanka last night as part of a whistle-stop tour of South Asian countries, including the Maldives, and a public push to keep the Indian Ocean free for international traffic. Thereby, State Secretary Pompeo met President Gotabaya Rajapaksa this morning and engaged in discussions. State Secretary, just after the bilateral discussions, made note in his Twitter account saying he had productive sessions of talks with the Sri Lankan president about post-pandemic economic recovery and the ways of bolstering the sustainable and transparent trade and investment opportunities. He also visited the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Sri Lanka and engaged in discussions with Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and ministry officials. The State Secretary also signed in the Foreign Ministry's guest book and made a note that the expectation of the United States is to see Sri Lanka being a strong and sovereign partner for the USA. State Secretary Pompeo also addressed the media gathered at the ministry together with Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena.
Indeed, a strong, sovereign Sri Lanka is a powerful and strategic partner for the United States on the world stage. It can be a beacon for a free and open Indo-Pacific. Look, that's quite a contrast to what China seeks. We see from bad deals, violations of sovereignty, and lawlessness on land and sea that the Chinese Communist Party is a predator. And the United States comes in a different way. We come as a friend and as a partner. And so my visit today was to talk about those things, to figure out good ways that we can continue to build and develop our relationship so that American private sector companies will see the opportunity that's here and come invest and train Sri Lankans and build up those communities too. These are the kind of things that America offers. There's a different vision. The Chinese have a very different vision. We want to make sure that the people of Sri Lanka have the capacity to execute their sovereign rights, to remain independent, to have the freedom to hold elections just like the ones that you all have held. Those are the things that democracies work on together. Those are the vision that we share, and that's why I was excited to be able to make it here today.
In the meantime, journalists also questioned the U.S. Secretary of the State Mike Pompeo over the travel ban which has been imposed on Sri Lanka's Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva. Answering to the media, he said that it is a legal process in his country which is being continuously reviewed.
It's a legal process in the United States. We'll always continue to review it, and we want to make sure we get it both technically, factually, and legally right. We'll continue to do that.
Sri Lanka is a neutral, non-aligned country committed to peace, as I mentioned earlier. On that principles, we hope to continue with our relations with the United States and other countries.
Moreover, United States Secretary of State Pompeo also visited St. Anthony's Church in Kochikade this morning following his discussion with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Minister of Foreign Affairs Dinesh Gunawardena. Pompeo left Sri Lanka this evening with the plans to reach the Maldives to complete his tour in the South Asian region. The latest report by the think tank Verite Research stresses that Budget 2019 had 41% of its policy proposals not implemented, while progress of 32% of its proposals were undisclosed. In addition, it further states that implementation of 11% of proposals were poor, 3% were partial, and 8% were not carried out at all. Only 32% of the proposals were fulfilled and 5% were completed at a substantial level. Verite Research has found that only 5 ministries ranked reasonably well on transparency but have failed to effectively disclose information on how public funds were being used. Thereby, the 5 top-ranked ministries were Finance, Transport, Media, Labour and Skills Development and Buddha Sasana ministries. The worst performed ministries were Justice, Roads and Highways, Industries and Supply Chain Management, Healthcare and Sports, and Youth Affairs. It is noted that Budget 2021 will be presented in the Parliament next month by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Finance Minister of the country. Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavindra Silva today afternoon announced that the quarantine curfew will be imposed in all 3 districts in the Western Province from 12 midnight tomorrow until 5 a.m. on Monday. The Department of Government Information, issuing a statement at 1:30 p.m. today, announced that a quarantine curfew will come into effect in all 3 districts in the Western Province, Colombo, Gampaha and Kalutara, from 12 midnight tomorrow until 5 a.m. on Monday, which is the 2nd of November. The curfew will continue even after 5 a.m. on Monday, November 2nd, in areas where curfew was in effect before this notice. As the curfew has been imposed in the Western Province on Friday, essential food outlets and pharmacies in the areas where curfew is in effect should be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. tomorrow. Thereby, after the 2nd of November, essential food outlets and pharmacies in Gampaha and Kalutara districts will be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on every Mondays and Thursdays, while those of the Colombo and Kurunegala will be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Tuesdays and Fridays. Moreover, 457 new COVID-19 cases were found in the country yesterday, and 447 of them are close associates, while the other 10 are from quarantine centres. Thereby, the Ministry of Health says 32 individuals who were tested positive for COVID-19 have been discharged after making complete recoveries. The latest update brings the total number of novel coronavirus recoveries in the country to 4,075. In the meantime, the Health Promotion Bureau states that 8,831 PCR tests were carried out in the country yesterday. Issuing a statement, the State Bank of Ceylon announces that it is set to disburse 42.8 billion rupees of the allocated 150 billion rupees under the Central Bank's Saubhagya COVID-19 loan scheme. Accordingly, Bank of Ceylon states that a sum of 34.6 billion rupees has already been fully disbursed by the bank, which is almost 83% of the total number of loans BOC has successfully registered with CBSL. It is all set to disburse to nearly 42.8 billion rupees. The program, officially termed the Saubhagya COVID-19 Renaissance Facility, was launched by CBSL to revive businesses adversely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic so as to mitigate the negative effects on living conditions countrywide and the national economy. Introduced in 3 phases, the 4% interest working capital loans offered through the program have helped businesses continue operations and support their employees while contributing to the country's economic revival. Thereby, Bank of Ceylon notes that a sizable 58% of the loans disbursed by BOC as part of the program have been in the SME service sector, with a further 33% in the agricultural sector. Running parallel to CBSL's Saubhagya COVID-19 Working Capital Loan Scheme, BOC has also launched Divya Udana scheme, continuing to support the government's social and economic development goals, with emphasis on sectors such as agriculture and service-oriented areas such as IT. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved to draft a new Securities and Exchange Commission Act with a view to enable the stock market of Sri Lanka operate as per proper procedures that is implemented internationally. The Cabinet of Ministers have given their consent to the proposal submitted by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Minister of Finance for directing the legal draftsman for the preparation of a draft bill for the introduction of a new act replacing the existing Securities and Exchange Commission Act number 36 of 1987, enclosing the provisions required for the regulation as per proper procedures that is implemented internationally. Moreover, the Cabinet of Ministers has granted policy approval to declare the fabric processing zone in Iravur as the industrial zone for fabric processing enterprises and to allocate 275 acres of land belonging to the Land Reforms Commission to the Board of Investment and to provide investment incentives for investors, those who are investing in the industrial zone. Moreover, it was decided to amend the Swashakti loan scheme, which provides credit facilities for the development and job creation in the small and medium scale sector. Thus, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal made by the Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Namal Rajapaksa, to provide loans to young entrepreneurs between the ages of 18 and 40, subject to a maximum of 1 million rupees for the implementation of new small and medium-scale projects in the sectors such as the IT and computer science, agricultural, dairy and animal husbandry, tourism, innovation and machinery, and food processing projects. We'll be back with stock updates after this short break. Welcome back after the break. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 80.08 points to close at 5,600.2 and the S&P SL 20 dropped 22 points to close at 2,238.97. The turnover was 1.2 billion rupees and over 64 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. And that's all the news for today. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care. Goodbye.